Everyone, welcome back to Sticks and Stones wood carving. What we're going to do today is I'm going to take this 2x6, I believe it's 2x6. It's right here. It's about 2x6 bass inch block. I'm going to come about 2 inches down, okay, all the way around, and we're going to make a little mushroom guy out of this. Again, down here on the bottom, we'll mark that too later on, but for right now, we're going to use the Dremel and make it a little quicker. Actually, I'm going to use my Fordham for this. My Fordham has a nice big cylinder bit on it. I believe this right here is a Typhoon bit. It's an old one, but you can get these Fordham makes Typhoons. You can get them in Sabertooth. You can get them at Cuts-All. All right. They all make pretty much the same stuff. This right here is particularly a Typhoon, and it's a pretty decent sized bit. It's about 1/2 inch, so I can remove a lot of wood with it. And we're going to use the Fordham to cut this out. It'll be a lot quicker to rough it out, and then we'll put a face on it. We'll make a little mushroom guy out of basswood, I guess. Okay, so I'm just going to take my bit and I'm going to go around this line on the top. Like I said, it's about 2 inches down, and we're just going to make a cut across that line all the way around, just like this. And you can use your Dremel for this, but and you could use a Cuts-All Extreme flame burr or some Sabertooth bits. I just happen to like the 1/4 inch shank on the Fordham here, so it's a bigger bit I can use to waste this wood. And what I did here was I flipped it over, and I'm just going around the bottom. I'm not even going to measure because I think I'm just going to cut the bottom off on this, or I'll just leave a little base on it. So that'll be a little bit smaller than the one that we did on the top. Okay, so that's what we're going to do there to start him off. Okay, now I'm just going to go around and make this a little bit deeper and start angling it from the other direction. Right, and I'll just keep shaping this the same way till I get enough wood off that I can start shaping them, rounding the corners off here in between both of those big cuts that we made. And we'll shape the whole thing into a mushroom at the top after I round all this off. Now this is basswood, so it gets very fuzzy when you power carve it. That's why I don't really like to rough things out too much with big Fordham bits or anything like this when I'm using basswood anyway. But I'll show you how you can clean them up with some ruby carvers then. And you can even use a sanding drum for this. If you don't have a Fordham, this is a 1/4 inch shank bit. You can use your Dremel, like I said, and use a Cuts-All Extreme. It'll take you a little longer on a piece this size, but you could use it. You could use a sanding drum on it, or you could have a Fordham and use bigger bits like this. I've even taken these things down with a die grinder and, you know, some bigger bits. So it's up to you how you want to do it. And we're also going to cover doing this with a knife on the other channel at Kevin's Carvings. So we'll do it on a smaller piece. You could do all this with a knife. We're just roughing this one out with the Dremel. With the Fordham. So what I'm doing here is I'm shaping the top. Sorry if I'm getting out of the camera there a little bit. I got to pull it close to me so I can see. And I'm going to shape the top in a little dome. You know, you can point it. You can do whatever you like, but the whole idea is to make a mushroom on the top, a mushroom cap. So I'm just going around and shaping that, and then going in between the top and the bottom and rounding everything over, and that's where we'll put our little face. Okay, so I'm just going to sit here with this big bit, and I'll keep shaping it to make the process quicker. And I'll keep remaking my cuts, and, you know, the more wood I take off. This down here at the bottom, like I said, is probably just going to be a little base for now so I can stand him up while I'm working on him, but I'll probably eventually just cut him off and just let him sit. Okay, now I got the Sabertooth flame-shaped burr in my Dremel, and I'm going to refine this and go over it with this bit. It's a rough cut burr, so it's still going to make a buzzy, but we'll clean all this up with my knife. And I'll be able to undercut it a little bit more. I'll be able to shave this down, and if you don't have a big bit, you could do the whole thing with a bit like this. Like I said, it's going to take a little bit, but that's okay. This right here will help me shape it a little bit easier and undercut that mushroom cap a little bit more if I want, and we could actually start doing our face with this bit too. I'm trying to keep this a lot of Dremel work, so those that are using Dremels can see how to, you know, make some carvings with the Dremel. Like I said, this is basswood. It does get fuzzy, but there are ways to clean it up after you rough it out with your power tools. And we'll try to cover some of that in this video. Okay. So that's all I'm doing here is I'm going around and I'm using this bit to shape him up and establish where I want to put his face after I get the shape that I'm looking for. And we'll try to use this bit to start doing our carving also. We can rough out our carving and actually start carving the face with the same bit. And then we'll clean it up with our hand tools as we go. Okay, now I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go around and start cleaning this up. Like I said, all the fuzzies and everything, once you use your power tools on basswood, it tends to fuzz up really bad, but you take your knife and some hand tools to it and it just cleans it right up. The finishing cuts on a knife, or from a knife I should say, actually almost make it like glass when you're carving with a sharp knife on basswood, so it's not really much of a problem. So don't be afraid to use your power tools to rough out what you want and then take your hand tools to it. And if you want a quicker way, like I said, you can always get some ruby bits or some diamond bits, and that tends to really clean the wood up really nice when you're using it on basswood. Okay, and I'll show you some cleaning up with the ruby carvers later. But what we're doing here is I'm trying to angle the top of the forehead, all right, up and underneath that mushroom cap, so you know we get him to look like a mushroom. So of course it's got to be a little skinnier at the top than it is everywhere else. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to clean the whole thing up with my knife, and I'll just get all them fuzzies off and we'll start shaping him so his forehead and everything goes up and underneath that mushroom cap. Right? And I'll also pare it down to the bottom and try and give him more of a flat bottom, so we can just cut it off and then he'll just sit without the base, because eventually, like I said, I'm going to take the base off and he'll just be sitting on his own bottom. And he'll be great for a little shelf sitter, and I'll make a bunch of different little faces and maybe start a little collection of them. Okay, so I cleared all that off, and what I did was I took my knife and I went around and I shaved all the fuzzy stuff off. I didn't really do up here yet, but we're going to shape this a little bit later on anyway. And what we're going to do is try and come up with just a nice little, quick little face to put on this guy. This is just a little thing, little project that we can quick put a face on and make our little characters and paint them up and have something to do that we can use our Dremel for and mix it with some hand tools. You see how the hand tools happen to clean that up. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. We're going to draw a line across, and we'll give him a nice little face on him. I'm probably going to want to frame the face in over here a little bit. So I'm going to do this because we are going to keep the face within that hairline. That right there could be his hair or whatever we're going to do. So I'm going to put this line across here, and that's going to be his eye bridge right about here. I'm going to draw another line, and that's where we're going to put the bottom of his nose. Okay. Now we can use our Dremel for this, and it's going to fuzz everything up, or we could use hand tools. All right. I would like to try and start using more and more of the Dremel to show you guys. So let's try and do that, and we'll shape his nose out, and then we'll clean it up with the hand tools, since these big tools right here are really going to make some of this just way too. Maybe I'll use this one, since it's a little bit less aggressive. Hold on, let me switch Dremel bits here, because I don't want it to be so fuzzy. So what we'll do is we'll use the smaller bit that's a little less aggressive, and it won't be so fuzzy then. Okay. All right, I switched to the yellow typhoon bit. I mean, saber-tooth bit. I'm sorry. This is a little less aggressive, so we shouldn't get as much fuzz, and It's got a point on it, so I can detail with it a little bit if I have to, but I'm still using it just to rough out here. So we cut the nose in with this end. Right here I'm trying to at least maintain a little bit of roundness going around the mouth and everything, and we're going to dig the corners of the eyes out here a little bit. And we'll see how this bit works for roughing in most of this guy, and then we'll see what other tools we need to clean them up. Maybe we'll go over them with some ruby carvers and stuff, and I'll show you how that smooths them up really nice after you get all your rough features in. And I don't know if we're going to give this guy a mustache or not yet. Right here, as always, I'm going to put a couple of divots on the sides of the temples there. And always make sure you go back to the corners by the nose there on the inside. And take a little bit of wood out and get that a little deeper. I don't know if we can get a nose in with this bit all the way or not. We're probably going to have to use a couple of hand tools or a smaller bit to refine that, but we'll at least get the shape of it. And like I said, when you start roughing things out with, and you're using basswood, expect to get a lot of fuzz and mess. Really wear a dust mask, have a dust collector, because this dust gets really fine and it does get in your lungs pretty easily. It'll really start blowing around in the room you're in if you don't have any good ventilation or a dust collector, and you definitely don't want that in your lungs. It makes really fine dust and a lot of fuzz. Okay, and I'm narrowing the nose here a little bit. And we'll see what I want to do and how good I can get it with this bit. And after I usually clean it up with the ruby carvers, that's when I'll get my hand tools out after I have it all smooth and everything. But right now, we're just gonna cut them in with this bit and see how much we can get done with it while it's in our hand. Again, this is a saber tooth bit. It's the less coarse bit. I believe this is a medium grit. So it's not so bad as the green, which is really aggressive, and which is what we use to rough this guy out with. Make sure you brush them off now and then so you can see what you're doing. Let's see if we can start a mouth here on them. Just going to sweep a line across like that. And start putting a bottom lip in there. And again, this is good practice for all the videos we've been doing on mouths and lips lately. You know. And right underneath the bottom lip, we'll put a little chin. And again, this is just kind of like blocking in, you know, just roughing in, not really fine-tuning much yet or anything like that. I'm just trying to get an idea about what I want to do with this guy, and then when we start detailing everything, we'll get a better idea of where we're going with it, though, after we have a lot of the features in. I'm going to take some wood out underneath that lip and start to try and form that little bit of a chin there. And underneath, I'll go around the bottom here to about where I want him to stop. And that's where I'll cut it off at the base. And we'll get that bottom block off when we're all finished. And we'll have ourselves a nice little mushroom guy just sitting on his butt and on the shelf. Maybe we'll paint him up. What else do we want to do here? A little bit more refining around this lip. It's a little too fat, so we're going to take it down and then recut it. Don't want it sticking out too big. Yeah, this bit doesn't seem to be working too bad. And I got this in my Dremel. It is a 1/8" shank. Okay. The one I was using in the Fordham, of course, was a 1/4" shank. You can use router bits and everything else. That's what's nice about having the Fordham hand pieces and a Fordham for stuff like that. And the Dremel's only going to take up to an 1/8" shank. But running at high speed, it's great for roughing out pieces of basswood like this and then cleaning them up with ruby carvers or your hand tools. Alright, I'm going to take my knife and start cutting that a little bit underneath this chin here. I want to angle that back a little bit so we can get an idea about where he's stopping and get some kind of little shape going on the bottom here. So I'm just kind of taking some wood out underneath that chin to make that stick out just a little bit. It doesn't look too bad. The chin will stick out enough. We'll angle him back a little bit more. And we might even paint this guy in this video. I know it's going to be a long one. It'll probably be a two-parter. So, might take the wood burner to this guy and then paint him and, see what we can come up with while we're playing. Might as well, right? Alright, let's start cleaning this guy up a little bit because using power on basswood, like I say, with some of these tools just drives me crazy. And that's why I like to get the hand tools out, clean them up. And it's so much easier to make it nice. Like I say, basswood isn't my first choice if I'm going to power carve it, that's for sure. I definitely use hand tools on it. But I'm going to get roughing out stuff that's a little bigger. I got to get the power out, and at least it gives you a chance to make a quick rough out. And then you take your hand tools to it, and that's really what this is all about. Now I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to start shaving, cleaning some of this stuff up. All right. Just into that stop cut that we made over here. I'm just using my flex cut skew here. I'm trying to clean all them fuzzies and all this stuff from power carving it off. I just see how much cleaner the finish is when you're using a blade on this stuff than power carving. That's why I don't do a lot of power carving videos with basswood. All right, it's just ridiculous trying to keep this stuff clean. But you make a cut with it with a hand tool, and it comes out so much cleaner and almost like glass, the finish. So it's definitely a plus to have your hand tools after you rough something out with basswood, and definitely go over it with your hand tools and carve it. I would recommend roughing it out if you can see what you're doing through all the fuzz, or you could get the ruby bits out and they will actually give it a clean finish, but you're not going to take wood down that fast, so that's for sure. Like I said, I've been using Typhoon and cuts all bits on this, some saber tooths, and yeah, they're going to remove wood, but if it's basswood, expect to get that fuzz. Okay, so let's clean this up with our knife, and we'll make our hard cuts and everything, and he'll start looking a lot better because now at least we have most of that wood removed and we have him shaped, which is really what I wanted to use the power tools for. Okay, because all this will clean up pretty easy once we just make a couple of cuts with our knife and we start carving. All right, now we gave him an upper lip, we gave him a lower lip. Down here we started forming a chin, and underneath the chin we started angling back a little bit so you'll see his chin. Okay, now it's just a matter of cleaning all this up with some new cuts, getting that face framed in. Gonna put a stop cut down there, get rid of it with my removal cut, and then we'll start pushing all this wood into that stop cut just a little. All right, we don't have to go too nuts, but we are going to clean it as we go. Okay, since we don't have any detail on yet, it won't be hard to detail him up after we get him all cleaned up. Now I could just, if I don't have hand tools and I want to keep this with power, what I would do is I would take a ruby carving bit, and I would, or a diamond one, and I would go over this, and that would smooth all that over and give me the same effect. How far did we come over? We came down to about here. So I'm going to restop cut this and get some of that fuzz off here. And then my removal cut will just bury that face into the side going up and under his hair here, okay? Anything that's still dug up from the Fordham and Dremel, we'll just shave with our knife and clean it up, okay? And if worse comes to worse, like I said, and we're still not happy, we'll get the ruby carver out. Because sometimes this is just annoying when you get all that stuff dug up like that. But look at what a couple of slices with the knife does. Like I said, it just gets you right back down to that nice clean wood. So if you can tolerate it, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't use power to carve some of these things out. I myself don't prefer it. I would much rather just keep the piece clean and see what I'm doing the whole time. But to each his own. People like to use Dremels. Well, this is what you're looking forward to if you're going to use a Dremel on basswood. Okay. Now, let me get a ruby carver out and show you the effect it has, since we're on power and talking about this. Now, this thing's a little bit long. But what I'm going to do is see how bad it vibrates. So you can see the effect of how nice a ruby carver starts cleaning that up, right? And you have different sizes. Like I said, these are 1/32 shank. And you're going to need a 1/32 collet if you want to use this in your Dremel, all right? And they clean up really nice, and you can shape very subtly with them, and they work really nice for putting subtle ridges and stuff in. So you might want to pick a set up if you're going to be carving basswood, especially if you're going to be using power, okay? You definitely should have some of these in your box if you're going to be doing a lot of basswood carvings with power, okay? So now we can get our hand tools out and Dremel detail him up a little bit more. I might take this up here too while a little off camera. I'll go through my box. You guys don't need to see me go over that. But that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably use a ruby bit and I'll clean this whole thing while I'm at it. And I'll clean the whole top also with the ruby carver. And I'll do all that off camera so you don't have to watch that. All right, now that we have him cleaned up, I'm going to take my V-tool and I'm reinforce some of these lines, like around his nose and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my V-tool and I'm going to put it in. I'm going to keep it against the side of his face, the flat edge. I'm just going to go around that nostril just a little bit. All right, we're going to try and bring that out. All right, so again, holding it like this so I can see. I'm going to dig it into the side of his face, come down. Then I'm going to go right down that smile line with it. All right, and that's going to start forming that nostril a little bit better and cleaning it up. All right, once I get to here, I'll make that a little deeper to clean that out. And now we have that smile line going down off the nostril there. Let's do the same thing on this side. And turn it over so I can get at it. I'm going to put the flat side of my V-tool against his face, okay? When I go around here, just dig it out. And when I get to about there, I'm going to go down the smile line. Okay, just like that. And that'll start getting that nostril to dig deeper in the face. This should be half on the face, half off, all right, the nose. Not that we're trying to be anatomically correct too much here. All right, and then we can always clean it up with our knife. Get a knife with a decent point on it. And that little piece right there, see? I'll just clean that up just a little bit. If you have a problem with that cut at all, okay? Can also take just a little bit out and get that nostril to come out. The same over here. What I can do once I make that cut is I can push my knife in a little bit, all right, to clean that up. Maybe take a little unwanted chip out, dig underneath that nostril a little. Whatever you have to do, you clean it up with your knife, okay? Side of the nose. Just going to make sure that I get that nostril to come out just a little bit, because he's not going to be any super fancy carving. I'm going to dig in right there just a little bit. And just shave up to that to get that nostril flare there to be a little bit clearer, okay? Underneath the nose, I don't want anything there. All right, so that's all I do there. Now, we got the nostrils going on the side of his nose. We can actually trim those down, like I said, if they're a little too wide or whatever, because the whole idea is to just have a little mushroom guy with a neat kind of a face, and we can make these all different sizes and collect them. Right, I'm going to clean this mouth up just a little bit, make that a little longer over there, and on this side I want it to come down a little bit, kind of like he's frowning. Not so much a smile, but not so much a mad either. He's just kind of a somber, normal look to him. Now what we got to do is figure out how to make his face look a little bit more interesting. So we're going to stay below the nose here and here, right about where my fingers are. We're going to take some wood out there. Okay, I'm going to use, this is about a number 3. Okay, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to use it, I'm going to come below the nose, right? I'm just going to scoop some wood here, and I'm going to push it and work it over towards that hairline, just like that. Okay, just push it in. He doesn't really have a mustache, so we don't really have to worry too much about hurting that. And we're going to take some wood out there. We're going to do the same on this side. Okay, but first, now that we have that out, let's try and blend that in just a little bit. Like I said, we don't want to get way up into the eye area up here, so keep it fairly about where the nose stops. And take some wood out there. And you can go all the way down if you want even, all right? We're just thinning the face out here. And anything we can't get with the gouge, we can clean up with our knife later. Let's do the same over here. Stay below the nose, right? We're going to try and scoop some out. And we'll go all the way down to where our hairline is cut anyway, all right? And don't worry what we didn't get out, because we're going to clean that up with our knife. Just try and keep it below the nose, like I said, in that general area. We don't want to go too high up. All right? So that's all we're doing there. Now, we could take our knife and try and clean that up a little bit. Try and get it to blend together. Or we could use that ruby carver again. All right? Since we have our Dremel at hand, and that would blend it in. All right? Totally up to you, whichever one you want. You could do both. If your stop cut is a little boogered up, re-stop cut. Get your shadow back, okay? And anything that's fraying, like I said, we'll use our ruby carver to clean that up, and any chips. So now he's got 2 divots on the sides of his face. Let's take our ruby carver and clean that up. See how nice that works? Just blends it in, gets all those fuzzies off, and you can start adding more and more detail as you go. Now, once I do that, I like to make a stop cut, like about here, all right? And I'll take some wood out of there to create a nice little shadow, just like that. And this will show if he was going to have a beard or whatever, I was going to put any hair there. It sets the cheek in there, and this could be beard then. All right, and that would be where his beard is actually starting to meet the face. Let's do the same thing over here. I'm not bringing it all the way down to the mustache. Really don't have to. Or not the mustache, but in this case, his smile lines. And let's just have a little bit of shadow on both sides and get that separation there. Right, now I could make this a mustache, actually. And he could be a bearded mushroom. Which, because now I was going to take all this down and make a lip, but we could just keep a bottom lip here and make this a mustache by just adding a little bit of a longer cut here. And we could just make that a mustache. And our first mushroom guy can have a mustache and still have a bottom lip, but he won't need to have, we won't need to carve an upper lip. Okay, we'll just detail him up with a lot of hair. And we have a little face on our mustache. On our mushroom guy. Okay? Want a little more shadow over here, I can always restop cut that and take a little more wood out. Right here. I'll run that up, get that face to clean up and get just a little more shadow. Stop cut at the top. And we'll try to get those cheeks to stand out just a little bit more. All right, he's looking pretty good so far. And we'll make all this hair. We could just put hair all the way around and we'll have ourselves a mustache. And all we have to, a mushroom. I keep saying mustache for mushroom, sorry. We'll have a mushroom that'll be kind of interesting because he's got a beard and everything. Right?